Welcome to Off the Shelf. I'm your host, Yvonne Wolf. Today, our special guest is Evelyn Lee. She's the author of Careers in Healthcare and Beyond. Welcome, Evelyn.
Thank you, Yvonne. It's such a pleasure to be here with you today.
Well, tell us about how you saw a need to write this how-to book.
Yes, I'm a scientist and an HR professional by training. And over the course of time, what I realized is that there are so many different opportunities for students who are interested in working in healthcare. And so as I saw these changes evolve over time and with technology, I felt that it was really important to find a way to communicate this information to students. Additionally, as a professional, when I was at networking events and meeting and speaking with students and also at family events, people would often ask me about, how I started my career in healthcare. And when I got these questions quite often. And so what I realized was that there was really a need and an opportunity to provide both students, their parents, and others with information about how to really explore careers in healthcare.
Wow, I really had no idea how huge this field is, and I think talking with you really gives us an idea. We're all baffled, and it's nice to know that that there is some way to find a direction this labyrinth. So you mentioned this particular incident. Did that inspire you, or you were invited to write a book?
Definitely. Oh, what an amazing situation that was in. I was invited by a professor from my university to to speak with students in his class about my career. And it was very interesting. At the time, even though my background is in HR and recruiting, I said, I'm not here to recruit for jobs. I'm not here to be able to talk about specific openings. And he said, no, Evelyn, I want you just to talk about you and your career journey. And Yvonne, really, this was the first time I was really invited to tell my personal story. And so the preparation for this event was very different than other situations. I started to really think back to what I was thinking about as an undergraduate, what were some of the options and decisions I made, and how I made my decision to pursue a career in science. And so when I spoke for 20 minutes, one of my fellow panelists noticed that the students were just really interested. I think he picked up on my passion on the topic, and the students were engaged. We also had friends of the professor in the audience, and he came up to me and he said, Evelyn, if you promise that you will write down what you said today, I will introduce you to my publisher. And Yvonne, I still get chills just thinking about this because I never imagined I would be writing a book. I never thought there would be that level of interest. But when he asked me to make this commitment, and that's really how I took this, as a commitment to tell my story, to be able to help others, I said yes. And so that was just a very unique and wonderful opportunity that came my way.
Wow, I can see how exciting that moment must be to be invited. But I think you also mentioned a very important point is that young people, just like you and I, many years ago, you put yourself in that time, in their shoes or in your shoes back then, and that's what makes this book so accessible. Evelyn, many times we think of writing nonfiction is reserved for the academia. If you don't have a PhD, if you're not a hospital director, what do you have to write about? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that everyone has a story. That one's this book is about life experience. It is about my experience as an undergraduate, as a graduate student, as a work professional, and it shares the stories of others on their journeys as well. And so one doesn't have to have a PhD or an MD or any formal degrees. Their experience, their lessons learned from others is equally valuable. And so this is a very important message for me to share with others that, though there's much that we can learn in the classroom and we can learn online, there's also there's the questions that one has to ask themselves as well. And that's what this book is really about, integrating the information that's available, but also with asking yourself information so that you can make decisions that are best for yourself.
I like that. I like to have that practical message and real life experiences, and that's something we really need in this internet time. We think we can, research anything. Now, how has COVID helped you to write? I know we all been kind of in the beginning a lot of time on our hands. So, can you tell us about that? How COVID was part of your writing journey?
Yeah, COVID really provided me with the ability to focus on my writing. Prior to that point, I actually started the book before COVID. And at the time, I thought, people would tell me, oh, just write a few hours a day, this is all it takes. And I thought, okay, I could write a little, do my activities, my errands, my community service. I thought I could do all my activities and write for a few hours and finish the book. But it actually required much more attention and focus than that. And so really during this period, during COVID, because everything was virtual, I found myself with really a lot of time to very much focus on the book and to complete the book. So it was really the gift of time and space for me to write this guidebook.
Oh, that's nice to know. I have also heard from other authors who actually enjoyed this COVID time, that we're quiet and we just have more time to think about what we're doing. Evelyn, it's wonderful that you found a publisher ready for you. Now, for a nonfiction book, how did you find a publisher, Routledge?
Yes, and so as mentioned, my fellow panelists had written books actually on healthcare economics. And so Routledge, it turns out, was the ideal publisher for a book of this nature that really talks about healthcare from a nonfiction perspective and provides information. So I really am very grateful and fortunate that I met this publisher at the time that I did. And they've been really very supportive of me on this journey, on this writing journey.
Oh, that's good to hear, because the journey could be very confusing and lots of bumps in the road. Having a publisher that's in your field really simplifies that. The category is easier to find. I've heard all this sort of perks, I suppose, with going with a publisher that's in your area. So what was the most time-consuming part of writing your book? I know it started, right,
Right.
how long was ago? What did you start it?
I started about 4 years ago. Yvonne, I honestly thought it was, a short, I thought it would
You
be
didn't
a
think
six
of
month, a 6 month project, right? I had just spoke for 20 minutes on a topic that was very near and dear to me. And then I thought, I can just write down, what I said and elaborate a little. But it turns out it took a lot more time than I had anticipated, because I wanted to provide more information to the reader. The book is really a compilation not only of my journey, but the journey of those that I interviewed. I also wanted to provide very practical tips and guidance on how to really to interview and write your resume and how to network. So there was a combination of stories and lessons learned, but also practical guidance. And then most importantly, I wanted to add content around how to learn more about yourself. I realized as I was telling my story that it wasn't just about the classes or the degree or whatnot, but there was a lot of time spent gathering information, not only about the programs and the opportunities, but also about myself. That was the hardest part of this journey, was to learn about myself. And so in the book, I wanted to address that question, to say, here's very tangible ways to learn about yourself. Here's how to gather information. And then most importantly, I encourage the reader to think about what success means to them. And so, Yvonne, what ended up taking time was that I wanted to provide a lot more content to the reader that would help them on their journey to learn about themselves. I wanted this book to be really something they could use throughout their career. You know, it might be helpful, you know, at one point, they might go back to it 6 months or a year or two later. And so wanting to put in that, you know, the longevity of you know, coaching and information is really what took time for me to integrate all of that content.
Oh, yes. I think you hit on a very good point. Knowing ourselves is really what help us to find the right segment of this field. This is such a big field. I Yeah, I have met people recently. A good friend of mine who is a PA, physician assistant, after going through school, all this stuff, she's deciding to change to another area. And one of the reasons is that she felt that this was such a high relationship job, and she's very strong technically, and the fit is just not as good as she imagined it to be. So I think this is a good point you're bringing up that helps people figure out what segment of this huge field would be their best fit. You know, who designed the cover? I like this very, colorful look.
Oh, thank you so much. You know, it was a collaborative effort between myself and the publisher. It was very nice. We had some options. You know, there are many options that we had, and we both went back and forth. It was an iterative process to say, what do we think is really, what would convey the message to the reader? And so I thank you. I'm glad you like the cover, Yvonne.
I see a little happy face here. I don't know if you can see it, but your background doesn't show. But this stethoscope just has this subliminal message.
Oh.
In your career search.
That is, you know, it stood out to me a little bit as well, that that is the goal is for the reader to find their happy spot, you know, because there are so many opportunities. One, you know, one may be technical, one may be creative, they might like writing, they might like interacting with people, and there is a spot for everyone and your interests. And that's really my ultimate message in this book, and what I want the reader to be able to explore and find. It doesn't mean it's easy. And that's the key thing, is that it's not like, oh, you can just tell someone, this is what I'm good at, or this is what I'm like. It involves research, even for the individual, to put themselves in different situations and to learn and explore. So I do want the reader to find their happy spot. So I'm so glad you noticed that.
Evelyn, you mentioned this a little bit already, but who is your audience? Do you think of them as college students or college, high school students looking for major? But when you talk about the longevity of these questions to reflect over and over as a career coach that you are, that perhaps it's also for people who are just changing careers.
It definitely is. You know, the book is designed, you know, it started with, you know, my outreach to students, but really throughout my career, I've helped individuals with career transitions as well. So there's definitely that component that is a part of the book. And so it's designed, you know, starting with, you know, the high school student, their parents. Really, it's designed to facilitate conversations. So it's the student first being aware of questions they might ask of themselves or of others as they're thinking about, you know, college majors or their careers. It's for their parents, family members who want to guide others in their journey, and definitely for individuals who are looking for, you know, career transitions. Sometimes, you know, we need to take a step back and say, okay, let me just see, how did I get here? What do I really like to do? And this allows someone to really take a look at who they are, where they are in life, and then start to ask some new questions and to look at new options. And so this is for all these individuals, as well as those who guide students, whether it's, you know, professors, career advisors. It provides in a very short, really easy to read book some really topics that are helpful for conversations.
Oh, yes. Yes, I think that's part of the process to have conversations and explore those questions with somebody, not just, yeah, not just on your own. So, Evelyn, you have two grown-up children, right, in the working world?
I
And have they
do.
benefited from your book and your writing process?
Definitely. As I've been writing, they, as just as I was on my writing journey, they were on their career journeys at the same time. My children were in high school and college at the time. So really, I would pull out of the book, I would extract portions that were helpful to them. So when they were writing their resumes or interviewing or networking, I would focus on those sections. When they were looking at job postings, I would really reflect on that. And then ultimately, as they were making their final decisions, what career, what geography, then I switched gears and focused on that, who am I, what's right for me, and what does success look like? So it was really very, very special for me to be able to really integrate and practice, what I was writing and sharing with others with my own children.
I see, Evelyn, you're very connected with your readership and your family. What connects you to Glenview?
Yes, I am a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And what brings me to Glenview is that there's a temple right on West Lake Avenue that
Yeah,
I visit.
yeah, I've seen the angel on the top.
The temple is just a beautiful place. It is very special, and we are so lucky to have a temple right here in Glenview. People sometimes, depending on where they live, may drive for hours, but the temple in Glenview is just 10, 15 minutes away from my home. And so it's very special that I can come to Glenview to spend some very special time in the temple. And it's formally called the Chicago, Illinois Temple.
Ah, I see. Well, it looks beautiful. I hope there's some public tours one day. So we are looking.
Absolutely. The grounds are open, there's flowers. It is very peaceful for anyone to come and visit.
Well, that's nice to know. Um, what kind of feedback have you received from your readers?
Uh, I,
That's always a very rewarding experience. Can you
it
share something?
absolutely. My readers, first and foremost, they were just really pleased with the readability of the book. Um, they've told me that it just sounds very much like as if they were having a conversation with me. And that's really what I wanted. I wanted the book to feel very informal. I wanted the reader to feel as if they were having a coaching conversation with me. Other pieces that my readers really appreciate are the components that I talk about in terms of, the practical aspects, resume writing, interviewing skills, networking. That was very helpful. Additionally, my readers have shared with me that they hope that others, that their children and others will read the book because there are components that are helpful to everyone. And so in the book, I really talk about the career journey as if when we're taking planning a hiking trip, and how do you really approach, that lofty goal. And so the readers have told me that I've made just something that's very complex, very easy to manage and approach.
I see. And Evelyn, your book was released during COVID. And how has your publisher, Routledge, help you launch the marketing? Is there any social media marketing? Are you going to be speaking at some places, signing books?
Yes. So they've been very helpful. Routledge has been very helpful in providing me with really marketing collateral so that I am prepared to really promote my book. And so anything that I need in terms of content for social media, they're like my partners helping me be prepared for these opportunities. Additionally, my book, was very well promoted on their website. There's a discount code for ordering the books. And so I felt like I had a very nice virtual launch for my book, even during these COVID times. And so I am available and look forward to speaking with others and doing book signings. And these opportunities will, come up certainly over the next few months.
That's great. And your book, I noticed how short it is. It's less than 130 pages. So I think that would be a very helpful element too that helps people pick it up and read a little here and there.
Mhm. Well, thank you. Yes. I wanted the book to be easy to read, and so I really appreciate that you think that that will be helpful to the reader.
So when you mentioned that Rutledge helped you with your media and your supporting you on a website, is your virtual background created by Rutledge? Was it you?
Yes, I say thank you, Rutledge. I reached out to the graphic designer, and this is where Rutledge has just completely supported me in this effort. And they
Oh,
did create this virtual background for me.
wow, that saves you a lot of time. That's definitely helpful to know that could be done by your publisher. And maybe some of our authors out there didn't even know you could ask. So maybe
Yes,
that is something already a tip for our writers out there. Ask them.
that's right.
Well, Evelyn, your book came out just in this COVID time where healthcare workers probably had the most upheaval in the way they see their work. Maybe there's some deep, dark questions they have to answer after this whole COVID era. Have you changed the way your book presented some areas just to address this?
Yvonne, thank you so much for asking this question. And the answer is yes. Had I written the book a year or two ago, it would have had a different context. Because of COVID, because of the work that we've seen, what we've seen on the front line, how hard healthcare workers have worked, but we've also seen the evidence of the science that COVID has brought to the forefront. Really, this is a message that I wanted to provide to the reader, that really your input and your work and your effort can really make a difference. There's two sides to two answers to this. Number one, to be very realistic about the career choice that you make, knowing that, regardless of the environment, that when you make a commitment to work in healthcare, this is what is required. And to help prepare individuals to make that commitment. That was something that was very important. But secondly, for those who maybe had not considered a career in healthcare, but have talent and an interest and a passion for helping others, I also want those individuals to feel like I can give this a try. I can do this. What does it take for me to be a scientist, a researcher? How can I help, with telemedicine? What are the technologies that I know that I can bring to the healthcare environment? And so really during this COVID environment, I want the reader to know and to want to pursue areas that are meaningful to them and to know that there are many different options.
Well, Evelyn, what is your message for our authors out there?
I would really encourage you to just really go for it. There is a story, if there's a story that's in your heart, in your mind, something that you've seen or experienced that you want others to know about, I really um, encourage you to take that leap and that step to reach out and to start to write that manuscript, to document what you're thinking about, because you may not know this, but there's someone else out there that can benefit from your story. And by taking, even though you might think that, oh, I'm happy to have a conversation or a coffee chat with someone, when you go through the formality of writing a book, it does require, and this is what I've learned, it's required me also to really think differently about the message and the information that would be helpful. So I hope that that authors to be, and if you have a book in mind, I really hope that you will take that leap and write it.
Wow. Well, thank you, Evelyn. That was a great message that we just have to keep pursuing it and using the book writing process. We will fine tune and sharpen that message we have for the world. Thank you for being here, Evelyn.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Yvonne.
And thank you for watching. Join us next time on Off the Shelf.